Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever wondered what actually happens when the super rigid, Latin-filled world of biological taxonomy collides head-on with pop culture? Well, today in this explainer, we're exploring a seriously fascinating intersection where scientists are literally using the power of celebrity to shine a much-needed spotlight on the natural world. It's quirky, it's highly strategic, and honestly, it's absolutely brilliant.
But let me start by throwing a question your way. It might sound a bit like the setup to a weird joke, but what do the legendary nature broadcaster Sir David Attenborough and the global pop icon Beyoncé actually have in common? Just think about that for a second.
The answer? They both have newly discovered species named after them. No way, right? It's true. All across the globe, researchers are taking the names of actors, musicians, politicians, and even internet personalities and bestowing them onto newly discovered animals, insects, and plants. But why? Why are serious, lab coat-wearing scientists naming bugs after pop stars?
So the crucial point is this isn't just some fun piece of trivia. Scientific research, especially fields like taxonomy and conservation, really struggles for funding and public attention. Describing a brand new species is incredibly hard, meticulous work, and sadly, sometimes it just goes completely unnoticed by the public. But by attaching a famous name to a recent discovery, scientists can instantly draw global eyes to their absolutely vital work. It is, without a doubt, science's ultimate PR move.
And when we're talking about having species named after you, one single name just completely reigns supreme. Sir David Attenborough holds a staggering record here. Over 50 different species and genera carry his name. We are talking about the whole shebang. Everything from extinct insects to marine reptiles, birds, mammals, and even an incredibly rare pitcher plant from the Philippines. It's just a massive, entirely fitting biological tribute to a true titan of conservation.
Another absolute legend heavily associated with wildlife is, of course, the late Steve Irwin. And the Irwin family legacy is literally etched into the scientific record. Steve personally has at least 4 species named after him. That includes a turtle he actually helped discover back in 1990, and, brilliantly, a terrestrial snail that researchers officially named Crikey Steve Irwini. How great is that? And it doesn't stop there. His son Robert recently got his own terrestrial snail, and the entire family was honored with a freshwater prawn from India to celebrate their continuing mission of wildlife education.
Now, you might completely expect nature documentary hosts to get this kind of honor, but what about Hollywood A-listers? Well, Leonardo DiCaprio has quietly built up a wildly diverse biological portfolio. He's not just an actor, he's a massive conservation funder through his organization Rewild, which helps protect species that were actually feared to be extinct. Thanks to his 2 decades of advocacy, scientists have named at least 7 species after him. That includes a critically endangered tree in Cameroon, 2 spiders, and a fat little frog from Ecuador.
And this brilliantly illustrates how scientists sometimes have a truly fantastic sense of humor. They don't just pull these names out of a hat, they actually look for matching traits. Take Jackie Chan, famous for his fast, rock-jumping acrobatics. Well, he has a rapid, rock-dwelling lizard named after him that literally escapes by wedging itself into tiny crevices. And remember Beyoncé? She's got a rare Australian horsefly named after her. Why? Because its golden hairs perfectly match her blonde hairstyles, and its large, round abdomen reminded the scientists of her hit song, Bootylicious.
Sometimes, though, the reasoning behind these names is deeply meaningful. Angelina Jolie was given a Californian trapdoor spider to honor her UN humanitarian work. John Cleese got a very rare woolly lemur named for him because of his significant financial contributions to lemur conservation over in Madagascar. Other times, well, a researcher in South Africa just randomly decided to name a parasitic wasp after Brad Pitt. So, sometimes you just name a bug after an actor you really like.
But honestly, my absolute favorite cinematic trend in taxonomy is the literal Spider-Verse. It's basically a rule now. If you play a Spider-Man character, you're getting an arachnid. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Hardy all have spiders named after them. Tobey even snagged a whole genus of spider crabs. But remarkably, Tom Holland has none. 0. Not yet, anyway. So hey, if there are any arachnologists watching this explainer right now, it is officially time to give Tom Holland his due.
Moving behind the camera, we've got the director's cut. And cinematic achievements translate beautifully to biology. Steven Spielberg, the director of Jurassic Park, fittingly has a pterosaur, an extinct flying reptile named after him. That's just perfect. Stanley Kubrick has a daddy longlegs and a Peruvian tree frog. And James Cameron, well, to honor his incredibly famous 2012 dive down into the Mariana Trench, he got a deep-sea crab. Plus, he also has a Venezuelan frog to recognize his global environmental and veganism advocacy.
Let's move to and see how this builds over in the music industry, because pop star taxonomy is a very real, very vibrant thing. Lady Gaga has an entire genus of 19 ferns, not to mention an otherworldly plant hopper bug whose strange, alien-like form perfectly matched her unexpected avant-garde style. Taylor Swift has a twisted clawed millipede and a sac spider. Adele has a tiny parasitic wasp, and Bjork has a butterfly that fittingly emerges earlier in the spring than all the others.
And the rock legends are heavily represented too. All 4 members of Queen actually got damselflies to mark the 40th anniversary of their very first album. The Beatles, naturally, have literal beetles named after them right alongside spiders and extinct trilobites for the individual band members. Elvis Presley has a genus of deep-sea invertebrates that researchers commonly call Elvis worms because their shiny exoskeletons look exactly like his iconic shiny jumpsuits. And Michael Jackson has both an extinct hermit crab and a copod.
But honestly, all of those incredibly famous musicians completely pale in comparison to one staggering record: 119. A mega-fan researcher named Dr. Peter Yager decided to commemorate David Bowie's 75th birthday by naming an entire genus of wandering spiders after him. And that single genus contains exactly 119 recognized species, with many of them named specifically after Bowie's albums and songs. Now that is some true, undeniable scientific dedication.
Let's pivot and look at television and childhood heroes for a second. I really love this list because it's genuinely so cool to see the people who originally inspired our curiosity getting memorialized forever in science. Stephen Colbert has at least 6 invertebrates named after him. Bear Grylls, appropriately, has a survival ant. The Kratt brothers, who taught so many kids about wildlife in the 90s and 2000s, share a Peruvian mantis. LeVar Burton from Reading Rainbow has a stunning, starry sky grasshopper honoring his cultural and educational impact. And Seth MacFarlane has a beautiful black and orange torrent frog down in Ecuador.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how taxonomy crosses into the political sphere. Scientists have named species after diverse figures for a variety of objectively stated reasons. British royals like King Charles and the late Queen Elizabeth have a frog and damselfly for their conservation efforts. Al Gore and Kamala Harris have been honored with species like frogs and true bugs for climate awareness initiatives. Figures like the Obamas, JFK, and Nelson Mandela have multiple species acknowledging their public service and education work. In 2005, George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and Donald Rumsfeld had fungus beetles named after them by researchers who stated they admired them for standing by their convictions. And Donald Trump has sea urchins and a moth named after him because the lighter scales on the moth's head physically resemble his hairstyle. Moving right along to the sports world, where the ultimate football rivalry somehow continues, even in biology. Lionel Messi actually boasts quite an extensive taxonomic trophy cabinet. He's got an extinct brachiopod, a fungus, a burrowing spider, and a lizard. Just a wild spread. Contrast that with Cristiano Ronaldo, who currently has absolutely 0 species named after him. Though, to be totally fair to the guy, a moth did land on his face during a match once, so, at least he has that going for him. But the really cool thing is, you don't have to be a traditional, mainstream A-list celebrity to get in on this action. Even internet creators are out there driving vital scientific awareness today. Take YouTube science communicator Sam O'Nella. In 2022, he casually mentioned in one of his videos that he really wanted a species named after him. Fast forward to 2025, and researchers actually named a brand new tarantula from southeastern Ecuador after his channel. It directly reflects his unique ability to capture that spirit of curiosity and inspire audiences worldwide.
So, we've seen it all today, right? Everything from the Beyoncé horsefly to the Steve Irwin snail. It really proves that taxonomy isn't just dusty textbooks and endless Latin. It's a living, breathing, and sometimes downright hilarious reflection of our culture. It draws absolutely crucial attention to the natural world and the vital need for conservation. Which leaves me with one final question for you. If a scientist discovered a totally new species today, what animal would you want named after you?